On Friday, April 2nd, 2004, at about 5 p.m., my wife was returning by herself from a trip to drop off her daughter at a friend's house west of Wabi Lake in Milford, Indiana. She was traveling east on County Road 1100 North. She approached the intersection, which leads into Oswego, and came to a stop at the stop sign. She looked left, right, and briefly ahead. Before beginning her turn, she noticed movement directly ahead on the road. She saw crossing the road from left to right, heading south approximately 250 feet ahead, two large, black, hair-covered figures, taller than an average man, walking on two legs at a hurried pace. Her first reaction was to say out loud, "What the heck was that?" They were walking very close together, and hurrying suggested that they were aware that they were exposed in the open and wanted to get back to cover quickly. By the time she saw them, they were in the middle of the road, but she saw them take 5 to 7 steps over several seconds. They were stooped forward and looking down, swinging their long arms quickly. After this, they entered the woods. She said they were close enough to have scared her if they had looked her way. Also, they were close enough to see they were not just men in black clothing, as there were no divisions where shirt, pants, and a hat would be. Only solid black from head to toe. My wife, who is a college-educated professional, then made her turn onto 300 East, thinking she would then have something interesting to tell me immediately upon arriving home. When she reached home, however, something else unusual happened. Instead of telling me, she apparently blocked out or repressed the experience from her memory, as if in complete denial. I have been a Bigfoot enthusiast for many years and have read of this happening before people seeing a Bigfoot. It is like your mind refuses to believe what the eyes are telling it because it is so new, different, and without a reference point. About 2 days later, we were talking. I said something that brought her all back to it suddenly. She then told me the whole experience in detail, showing sign of alarm and even imitating the way they walked. Of course, I wasn't about to believe her without asking questions. After all, I was the biology major in college. I'm the outdoorsman, and I'm the Bigfoot enthusiast, and I'm the one who should have seen them. I asked all the typical questions that interviewees ask, and she answered them all correctly, even adding additional detail. I asked if they might have possibly been some young high school guys in black gothic clothes, as some like to wear. The answer was that they were absolutely not men in black clothes. The thought also occurred to me that she was messing with me, playing a joke to mislead me, so I asked her. This was the last straw. She got hurt and angered with me for not trusting her after 27 years of marriage, and I got the silent treatment for 2 days and had to do a lot of apologizing. I'll just have to agree with her. Based on the evidence, she saw 2 Bigfoots crossing the road. Wish I had seen them. Hopefully, by learning as much as I can about this creature, I will be able to remain calm enough to stay and observe it if I ever see one, instead of freaking out and running, as most do. Some may say that your wife learned all this from listening to you go on and on about what you read on the internet. Believe me, when she tells her story, you can tell it was a very real experience for her. Whether anyone believes her or not, she knows what she saw and will say so. Okay, not just a story. This happened to us recently, here at home one night. Friday night, October 10th, 2003, Saturday morning, approximately 1 a.m. My son and 2 of his friends were coming home late one night, just about 1 in the morning on a Saturday morning after recent homecoming activities. Since their plans had gotten changed, I wasn't expecting them home. They were supposed to stay somewhere else. When they pulled into the yard, I was already in bed, halfway sleeping, when I awoke to the sound of somebody pounding on the front door and yelling excitedly. Then I heard my name, and Dad coming from them. So, I slowly pulled myself from bed and made my way to the front room, where I heard the sound of one of the bedroom windows sliding open. My son came falling through and ran to the front door just about the same time. I reached it, so we opened it and let his other 2 friends in. They came in very quickly, in a jumbled mess of excitement. They began telling me about it being down there and coming up here, and all sorts of things. I was too groggy to understand. Saturday after work, I finally sat down with 2 of them to hear it all again and got the whole story, in order, and without all the confusion there had been the night before. Here's how they explained it. After pulling into the yard up near the trailer, they walked in the dark up to the porch and started to knock. Friday night, the 10th of October, was right around a full moon, and the sky was absolutely clear that night. As they walked up to the porch to knock, one of the 3 looked back over his shoulder because he heard something and noticed a stump down in the yard, about 150 feet away, near the boats at the edge of the water. The other 2 looked then to see what he was talking about when the stump got up and just stood there. Even in the moonlight, they could see it was not a deer, not anything except the form of a person, because it stood there directly facing them and they could see it easily. So, as they began to knock more excitedly, it began to walk away quickly to the east on the shoreline, but then abruptly turned around and began to move much quicker right back across the yard where it had been, toward the marshy area and light woods and tall grass immediately south of the porch and trailer. When my son saw this, he came running around the trailer and let himself into the window. Now the other 2 could hear the sound of this guy running heavily into the tall grass, sticks, branches, and all the stuff that was down in the woods between the trailer and the lake, but then heard it starting to move closer up the hill. That's when the hard pounding and yelling to let them in really began. We let the other 2 in, locked the door. I went back to bed, while they stayed up half the night, rehashing what had taken place and how it freaked them out. 4 hours later, I was up, ready for work, and out the door at 5:25 a.m. My son had to get up and briefly talk me through what they had seen earlier. Even at 5:30 in the morning as I was leaving, the moon had made it mostly west in the early morning sky and was still so bright that I could easily make out every tree, patch of grass, boat at the shoreline. Every little thing we're used to seeing out here. Back at 1 a.m. when this happened, it was even much more illuminated with the moon directly overhead, especially with the light bouncing off the water as well. So maybe it was just some guy squatting and then standing at 5 inches of lake water at 1 a.m. in the middle of the country. Well, when I'm 6 foot and about 200 pounds, and they see some guy who's way taller than me and a lot larger, and built a lot larger, way taller, way larger, and grunting slightly as he ran. We only have one neighbor, and knowing them, they don't run around in the yard or standing lake water at 1 in the morning, or noon for that matter. He's also not approximately in the range of 8 feet tall, and built large at the height. Then my son reminds me, when I asked what it looked like. He says, "You know, like that thing that I saw about a year ago up between the sheds one night." You see, somewhere about a year ago, he and a friend were running around with flashlights and a paintball gun after dark, when they see what they thought was a stray dog laying in some tall grass between 2 of our outdoor sheds. They decide to shine the light on it and then shoot a couple of paintballs at it, when it starts to get up, revealing that it isn't just a dog, just some large hairy creature, bigger than a man. But we don't know what it was, so we just kind of ran. They never saw a face, but did see large eyes that reflected an orange reddish black back at them when the flashlight hit it, as it seemed to turn its head slightly toward them. When they did see the eyes reflecting back and realized that it was indeed a head, they observed that there was no muzzle of any sort. That's when they realized it wasn't a dog. They didn't stick around for it to get up all the way off the ground. They could see that as it was getting up, it was large, hairy, more like a person and not a dog. So he really felt like this October sighting was the same thing that they had seen 6 or more months ago. And that's basically it. After much grilling on my part, I do believe them. I didn't see it myself. I wish I had the presence of mind that morning to grab a gun and stand on the porch to see if something did make its way up the hill in the little bit of woods. Why I didn't, I'm not sure. Too late to speculate. Only thing to do now is plan for the next time.